Hello everyone! Welcome back to my channel. Today, we continue following the emotional journey of Ly Hoai Ca and Hùng. Anyone who has been watching from the beginning surely understands. Their path has never been easy. They are two people carrying deep wounds, yet always trying to hold on to each other and overcome every challenge together. And in today's video, a completely unexpected detail appears. Something that might change the direction of their story, bringing even more emotions and tension. So, what exactly happened? How will this twist affect Hoai Ca and Hùng? Let's follow today's video to uncover each development. Many years ago, Hoai Ca went through a traumatic event she never wanted to remember again. Because of family conflicts and a misunderstanding between both sides, Hung's mother, in a moment of anger and selfishness, pushed Hoai Ca into a dangerous situation. Hoai Ca was badly injured, fell down a rocky slope, and wandered for days in a state of memory loss. During the time she roamed aimlessly, with a pale face and empty eyes. It was Mother Ha and Anha who saved her. Mother Ha held the injured, unfamiliar girl in her arms, filled with worry and compassion. Poor child. I can't imagine what she must have gone through. Back then, even though Anha was still a reckless, playful young man, his heart was incredibly warm. He brought her home, cleaned and dressed her wounds, and quietly protected her as if she were a long-lost younger sister. The days Hoai Ca lived in Mother Ha's house were days she had to learn everything from the beginning. How to walk, how to eat, how to remember even the smallest things. Mother Ha cared for her like her own daughter. Anha treated her like a sibling, always buying snacks and milk for her, smiling as he said, "From now on, you're my little sister. Anyone who bullies you, I'll take care of them." Even without her memories, Hoai Ca could still feel something she thought she had lost forever. The warmth of a family. And thanks to Mother Ha's devoted care, she eventually recovered and found her way back to Hùng. Mother Ha had always treated Hoai Ca as if she were her own daughter. She noticed every little thing, from the warm meals prepared each evening to the blanket she gently pulled up whenever the night turned cold. In that small house, her hands were constantly busy, yet her eyes were always soft whenever they landed on Hoai Ca, as if this girl were a gift fate had brought into her life. As for Anha, her only son, he was still a mischievous, carefree young man back then, living without worries. But despite his impulsive nature, he never once raised his voice at Hoai Ca or treated her poorly. Instead, he always saw her as his little sister. There were nights when he returned home late from hanging out with friends, secretly slipping cheap little snacks into Hoai Ca's hands, treats he had to save up coin by coin to buy. She would smile, and he would quickly turn away, pretending nothing happened, though the tips of his ears would turn red with embarrassment. Then one day, Anha decided to leave his hometown and work far away. No one expected that this decision would become the turning point that changed his entire life. He worked tirelessly, saving every bit of his modest wages, both to support his aging mother and to make up for the reckless years of his youth. Back in the village, life for Mother Ha and Hoai Ca passed quietly, day by day. Two women, one old, one young, leaning on each other to get through life. Hoai Ca cared for her from meals to sleep, even preparing her morning medicine. And Mother Ha, loving her as a daughter, never let the girl carry her sadness alone. Especially during the long periods when Hùng, Hoai Ca's husband and a police officer, had to work far away, leaving behind stretches of worry and longing. In those times, only Mother Ha sat quietly beside her, holding her hand, listening without needing to say a word. Sometimes, just that gentle presence was enough to ease Hoai Ca's loneliness during the days when her husband was gone. That autumn afternoon, the sky was crystal clear and the chilly breeze carried the gentle coolness of the season. Golden sunlight fell through the leaves, scattering warm rays across the small yard in front of the house. Hoai Ca was quietly sweeping the fallen leaves, her heart as calm as the peaceful scene around her. Suddenly, she heard the distant hum of an engine, the soft crunch of tires rolling over the familiar dirt road. The sound made her pause for a moment, because it resembled a sound she had once known so well. A sound that used to belong to this very home. Before she could look up, the tall figure of a man was already standing at the gate. Anha had returned. In that instant, time seemed to stop. He was no longer the reckless, impulsive young man from years ago. The Anha standing before her carried the quiet weight of maturity. His skin was darkened by long days of labor far from home, his shoulders broader, his posture steadier. His smile no longer mischievous, but gentle, composed. And his eyes deeper, calmer, holding countless stories that time had carved into his heart. He stepped slowly into the yard and set his old backpack down. When he finally spoke, his voice trembled with emotion, as if holding years' worth of unspoken gratitude. I sold the house in our hometown. I've brought Mother to live with me in the city. Thanks to you taking care of her, she's healthy and happy now. I owe you so much, Hoai Ca. His sincere words made the entire yard fall into a soft, quiet stillness. Hoai Ca blinked, her heart tightening for a brief moment. Then she smiled, a soft, warm smile, gentle like the autumn sun drifting through the leaves. I've always seen her as my own mother. We're family, so don't talk about deaths, okay? Her smile made Anha freeze in place. He lowered his head, eyes reddening, embarrassed yet deeply moved. Years of distance seemed to dissolve instantly, leaving behind only the bond between people who had once relied on each other to survive. Months later, when life had settled into peaceful rhythm again, Hoai Ca and Hùng unexpectedly received a wedding invitation from Anha. The card was simple and soft in color, yet incredibly warm, just like the quiet transformation within him after all those years away. When they met again, Anha spoke with joy sparkling in his eyes. During my time working far from home, I met a very good woman. She helped me change, helped me think about the future. I want to build a real home. I hope both of you will come celebrate with me. Hùng gently squeezed Hoai Ca's hand, as if offering a silent blessing. And Hoai Ca smiled, a bright, heartfelt smile that seemed to light up the entire room. The kind of smile only reserved for someone she truly wished happiness for. Someone who had once shared with her some of the most difficult days of her life. That day, Hoai Ca chose to wear a long cream-colored dress, the soft silk fabric flowing gently with each step she took, giving her the grace of a drifting, delicate cloud. Under the soft sunlight, the thin layer of chiffon shimmered faintly, making her look as though she was surrounded by a pure, glowing aura. Her hair was tied neatly behind her head, with a few loose strands framing her delicate face, a beauty both simple and quietly radiant. Looking at her, no one would ever guess she had endured so many hardships in her life. Beside her, Hùng wore a simple yet impeccably tailored black suit. His broad shoulders, upright posture, and neatly styled hair gave him the calm, steady presence of a mature man, a police officer who had gone through countless missions and dangers, yet still carried warmth in his eyes. Amid the lively crowd, Hùng walked next to Hoai Ca with composed strength, like a steady pillar grounding her in the middle of life's storms. As they stepped into the banquet hall together, many eyes subtly turned in their direction. The crystal lights from above sparkled and reflected beautifully, as if thousands of tiny stars were falling gently around them. The entire space was adorned with white flowers and warm candlelight, while a live band played a sweet melody, each piano note soft and tender, touching the hearts of everyone present. At the center of the hall stood Anha, the groom of the day, welcoming guests. He looked radiant in his navy blue suit, his posture firm, and his sincere smile overflowing with happiness. In his eyes was a pure joy, the kind only those who have once been lost, stumbled, and risen again can truly understand. From the way he held his bride's hand with such respect, to the look he gave his mother, gentle, grateful, and mature, everything about him showed how deeply he had changed after the years he spent rebuilding his life. At the first table, Mother Ha sat quietly in a soft sky blue ao dye. She reached up to wipe away a tear that had slipped down her cheek, overwhelmed with emotion. She looked at her son, now a complete man. Then her eyes drifted toward Hoai Ca and Hung as they walked in. In those aged yet warm eyes were layers of emotion woven together. Pride, relief, affection, and gratitude toward fate. Because at last, all her children had found their own path to happiness. She pressed her lips together, whispering softly, almost only to herself. At last, my children are happy. It was a beautiful moment. Lights shimmering, laughter blending with music, guests greeting one another with joy. Yet within all that sound, there existed a single quiet second, weightless and peaceful, as if time gently slowed so each person could etch the moment into their hearts. A second where happiness revealed itself clearly, not loud, but warm enough to take one's breath away. During the wedding ceremony, the entire hall erupted in waves of applause, each cheer blooming like warm ripples spreading through the air. Crystal lights from the ceiling cascaded down, catching on the radiant smiles of the guests, creating a scene so shimmering it felt like a festival of light and joy. Standing beside Hung amid the sea of people, Hoai Ca felt her heart lighten. She was happy for Anha, genuinely, and that sweetness seemed to drift gently through the atmosphere. Without warning, Hung gently took her hand. His large, warm palm tightened around hers, a subtle, quiet squeeze that carried a meaning he had held inside for too long. Just that small gesture was enough to make Hoai Ca's heart skip a beat. She turned to look at her husband, and in his eyes, she saw two things clearly: the sincere joy of seeing Anha find happiness, and a faint, fragile sadness, a tiny corner of longing he had never voiced. Hung's low, steady voice blended with the music and chatter around them, yet it felt as though it flowed straight into her heart. I just wish one day I could give you a wedding like this. The words weren't grand or flowery, but they carried a depth only a man who had lived through hardship could hold. It was a confession, quiet, raw, utterly honest. Hoai Ca froze for a moment. She looked at the man before her, the man who had been her refuge in her weakest days. The man who rarely spoke, but showed love through every quiet gesture. The man who still carried a silent guilt, believing he had not given her enough. She stepped closer, her delicate hand resting gently yet firmly on his shoulder, as if comforting all the unspoken things in his heart. Her voice was soft, tender like a breeze. I don't need a big wedding. I just need you. You're my peace, the kind of happiness I'd never trade for anything else. She said it with her whole heart. Hung felt his chest tighten, not with pain, but with an overwhelming rush of emotion that made breathing difficult for a moment. Warmth surged through him, powerful and tender all at once. He lowered his head, breathing in slowly, steadying himself. There was no need for promises, no need for words. Her eyes alone told him everything, how deeply she loved him. Under the dazzling lights, surrounded by music and laughter, the two stood together as if separated from the noise around them. They leaned gently toward each other, silent yet profoundly connected. The moment felt like the most beautiful crescendo of a love song, soft, deep, lingering long after it ended. All the extravagance and brilliance of the celebration faded into the background. What remained were two hearts that had endured countless wounds, and now, at last, had found each other again in a peace so rare that even time seemed to pause just to witness it. That night, as the wedding celebration slowly came to an end, the lively sounds in the banquet hall softened into gentle conversations. Hand in hand, Hoai Ca and Hùng walked out of the restaurant, passing through the large glass doors that reflected the glittering lights behind them. The moment they stepped outside, the cool autumn breeze wrapped around them like a soft embrace. The night wind carried the faint scent of milkwood flowers drifting from the nearby street, blending with the quiet hush of the city at dusk. The pleasant chill made Hoai Ca shiver slightly, her hands instinctively pulling closer to her body. But before she could speak, Hung's warm, familiar hand tightened around hers. That simple gesture held the same protection she had relied on for so many years. They walked slowly along the stone-paved sidewalk, where streetlights cast long, golden streaks of light across their path. Their shadows fell beside them, leaning gently toward each other, just like they always had. The street was empty, save for the whispers of dry leaves swept across the road by the wind and the distant hum of late-night traffic. At a quieter stretch of road, Hoai Ca came to a stop. She lifted her head, looking up at the vast night sky sprinkled with countless tiny stars. They twinkled softly, as if smiling down at the emotional day the two of them had just shared. She took a deep breath, her eyes glimmering with the reflection of the sky above. Her voice flowed out soft and tender, almost melting into the breeze. You know, happiness doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't need lavish weddings or extravagant clothes. Just being beside the person you love, sharing even the smallest moments of life together, that's already more than enough. Hùng stood close, watching her with a quiet awe. The streetlight illuminated her face, softening her features into something warm, almost glowing. In that moment, he realized that all the weight he carried, the guilt of not giving her a beautiful wedding, the insecurities from the difficult years they'd lived through, all of it became insignificant compared to the purity of her love. He lifted his hand slowly, squeezing hers again. It wasn't hurried nor forceful, but gentle, deliberate, as if engraving every word he was about to say into her palm. His voice deepened, each word resonating with emotion. I promise, no matter where I go, no matter what I face, I will always come home. Home to you. The promise wasn't loud or dramatic, but so warm and sincere that Hoai Ca felt her heart tighten. She didn't respond with words. Instead, she leaned her head softly against his shoulder, finding once again the familiar refuge that had carried her through so much of life. Under the starlit sky, bathed in the gentle glow of streetlights, their two silhouettes rested quietly against each other. No more words were needed. Their warmth, their closeness, was enough. And in that moment, Hung's promise shone in her heart like a newly fallen star. Bright, beautiful, and kept safely in the deepest corner of Hoai Ca's soul. That night, under a sky filled with countless stars, Hung's promise lingered softly in the quiet air. Small, gentle, yet powerful enough to reach the deepest part of Hoai Ca's heart. In that moment, she felt as if the whole world had shrunk down, leaving only the two of them standing beneath the warm glow of the streetlights and the cool autumn breeze. Hung's words, "I will always come home to you," were not just a promise. They were an invisible thread, binding their hearts closer than ever. And from that moment on, it felt as if a new chapter had begun for them. A chapter full of hope, full of love. But who could know how many challenges and storms still awaited them ahead? Would that promise remain unbroken when life tested them? Would the peace Hoai Ca was holding on to truly last? And after a night as beautiful as this, what unexpected turn would their lives take next? Stay tuned for the next episode to follow every new development in their story. It might be joy, it might be hardship, or perhaps a brand new door opening for their love. If you're enjoying the story, feel free to leave a comment. Share your thoughts, your feelings, or your predictions for the next chapter. Your support is what motivates me to create each new episode with all my heart. See you in the next episode. Wishing you all a peaceful, love-filled night.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Này thì mình tiếp tục đưa đến video về câu chuyện của Hoài Ca và Hùng nha mọi người.